Hello and welcome back to another episode of Into the 99, where we've got 99 cards, because Commander's number one. I am one of your hosts, Daniel. I am joined with everyone. I'm joined with Sherman. I'm joined with Slothy. Sherman, how you doing?
Doing good. Just trying to stay warm right now.
That's fair.
So, yeah.
It's
How are you? Like you look different.
with my my beard. Give me just 1 second here. Let me. Oh, there we go.
Oh, you got to put the hat on so no one sees your messy hair.
Yeah, exactly. I just I just finished work, but other than that, no, I'm good. I've been busy. I did shave my giant homeless beard off, so I look like a human being again. We'll see. We're close enough to one, right? Yeah. No. Other than that, I picked up extra work. The highways were closed like a night ago, so basically everything was behind. So they just asked if I would do extra work. Because of that, everything took so long. So I should have been off work at like midnight, maybe 1 a.m. And I just walked in the door. I was like, okay, I'm hurrying, everyone. I'm hurrying. So we rushed to be here, but we got here. No, other than that, I've been good. Just been working on like I really, anyone who knows me like personally knows I really like to make spreadsheet stuff. So I've just been doing a lot of like work on spreadsheet stuff and passively playing some games every now and then. It's been a nice time. And
Yeah,
what about
Daniel's a freak in the sheets.
Freak in the sheets. I like that. I like the numbers. I like the numbers a little bit too much. So, yeah, I'll go into that after. But yeah, Slothy, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It was a fairly easy week. Very excited for this topic that we've got today. Yeah, that's about all I have to report. Just kind of cruising through this year so far.
That's fair. Today's topic is I like it because it's one that's been kind of what we've all been doing for a little bit, but Sherman's organized it actually nicely a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about what we've been working on.
Yeah.
Where is my?
So, yeah. But other than that, like it's something that we've been like early on in the podcast, we were totally not like this, and as time went on, we are definitely like this now.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see how there's the difference, in what we do today. I guess we'll introduce the topic. Actually, we're talking just about budget building and stuff. Anyone who listens to the show at all has basically seen that we've kind of trended towards more like fun stuff, more lower power things, not specifically bad, because I don't think budget means bad, but it's just we've played like if given the option between like a doubling season and like something that I think will make the deck more interesting, I'll take the more interesting thing all the time, because I had a bunch of decks that already have a doubling season, right? Everyone sees a doubling season. It's so easy to be like, oh, you have a token commander, a doubling season is what you put in there, right? And we kind of just pseudo inflate these deck prices by playing a lot of these staples, and it doesn't lead to like the most exciting games, because you can kind of predict what's in everyone's deck and stuff and what they're searching for. I just really like playing with the budget. So today Sherman like kind of broke down some of the finer points of it, and because everyone like you can simplify it by being like, make cheaper decks, but how do you make cheaper decks, right?
Yeah.
So I'll let Sherman talk for a second on this. Sherman, let us know what you think.
Well, like if you let's start out with talking about our sponsors here.
Oh yeah, sure.
So
go buy expensive cards from them. Go to houseofcards.ca, promo code IT99. It supports us. It gets you a discount at checkout. They're great. Really, really awesome business to work with. And they just have a wonderful stock of everything. Fast shipping, great stock, great people. Can't beat it. And then AI armor. I really like the AI armor stuff. I've seen a few people kind of complaining here and there online. They're like, oh, well, I don't like that it's like AI artwork and everything. And I'm like, well, it's cool artwork. They do have some human stuff. So again, if the whole concept of AI isn't for you, then sure, whatever. Buy boring Dragon Shield sleeves that have the same color and rip after 3 shuffles.
To each their own.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
Again, as someone with just a ton of decks, I've really just enjoyed the number one, having extra artworks, and number two, the quality. Like every time I get a set of dragon shields right now, it's kind of like they're all puffy and stuff. I've got to wait for like the air to settle in them, and a lot of times I'm horrible for being someone who sleeves up right before we're about to sit and play, right? So like I'll be like, hey guys, let's record games on Friday. And Friday morning, I'm frantically like sleeving like 15 decks, and I'm like, please help me when you get here, right? So when those decks have to sit and do that and like depuff, it's kind of not wonderful for me. So yeah, I just I like AI armor. I've got nothing bad to say about the quality. Like I said, the guild sleeves that they have, I think, are one of the cooler takes on how like the guild stuff should be like color wise. And again, they're just cool stuff. They're a great company to work with. So AIarmor.com. That's it.
And like with the new guild ones that they have, like you can play mind games with everyone, right? You can bring out like sleeves that are like show it is it colors, and then you're playing Golgari, right?
What kind
mind
of
games?
What
mind games.
kind of animal would do that?
Yeah,
Anyway.
I actually ordered Selesnya for my latest Golgari deck.
Yeah, there you go.
Let me find the
topic now. All right.
One sec. I have it. Hang on. I have it pulled up now, so you can see on the video like what the mana sleeves look like, and I think they look really cool. I love. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just love them. I gotta nag them to send me a bunch. I love the 5-color one. But yeah, great price, great company. On to the topic.
Yeah. All right. Topic, as we were alluding to, is we're talking about building on a budget. So basically challenging yourself to build on a budget. So first off, we have to define what a budget is. Okay, because that makes a huge difference. Because we've all talked to people, we all say like, like what's your budget for a deck? And a lot of people are like, oh, my budget deck is like $300. Or I think the most I've ever heard from one person saying that a budget deck for them is like $600. Right? We're not saying that, our version of a budget is definitely not that. We try to aim for around 200 or less, right? For a budget, because that's pretty decent. So most people can basically buy a precon, pull out like 10 lands or 8 lands, throw in some upgrades, and then it's going to be around like around that range. So that means that like if you build a deck, you're going to be around the same, hopefully around the same power level as a precon that's been upgraded. So if you're playing against someone that's like a newer, then it's probably around the same power level, hopefully. So, and that's what we strive for. No, all right. At the same time, we're not saying that if you find a card like a demonic tutor and it's very heavily played, like parts are like pieces are missing and everything, and you're like, hey, look, I found this for like 30 cents. That does not count. Okay, we're talking about near mint, lowest priced versions of that card. So like a Ristic Study compared to the anime version of Ristic Study, very big price differences, right? But basically, overall, we want to look at decks that are under $200. We're going to consider those a budget. The lowest version of a card as well. So if you have like, the Elish Norn, the Mother, like Phyrexian version, think of it as the lowest cost version of that. All right. And then price it out that way and see how you build a deck. Like challenge yourself. Try to see if you can build under that.
Well, a good point you made to that too is that like what you paid for it doesn't make it a budget, because I didn't pay dual land prices for my dual lands. I've just played for a long time, right? So I can't just be like, yeah, like this is my budget deck. Like these Bizarro Bagdads were like nothing. I got them for like $2.
Yeah.
Like it's just my Gaia's Cradle, my foil Gaia's Cradle was like $30 when I got it and stuff. Yeah, of course it's a budget card, budget staple in my token decks. It's like you have to be reasonable with it and stuff. Like budget should be kind of what everyone can get the card at, right? Not like not a friend gave it to me, so it counts because I didn't spend money on it, right? Like it's you have to be. Yeah, part of playing budget is kind of like the power level conversation in general. Like you have to be honest with what you're doing and like what you're trying to do, right? Like you can't just be like, well, I found it for cheap.
Yeah. A good example would kind of be, instead of, like you were saying, with the absolutely destroyed demonic tutor, if you're still wanting a tutor in there, diabolic tutor, $2 instead of 50.
Yeah. Or not have tutors at all. You know, like
there is that.
We tend not to play tutors anymore. In all honesty.
I play tutors and decks, but I always tutor for stupid stuff. Like it's always it's always meme things. Like I'm always like, yeah, like I have a lot of like good decks like that run not budget cards, but I always like tutor just really idiotic stuff. I'll be like, yeah, like I'll cast like demonic tutor and get a howling mine.
I do have my jank deck where it has like 12 tutors in it, but that's just so I can pull, cause it's group hug too, right? So it's like, okay, I'll tutor stuff and everything and bring out all the stuff that's group hug. So, but that's besides the point.
I don't think tutors are inherently bad, right? Like especially you for you like
make it more consistent.
I was gonna say for your play style, a lot of times when you're tutoring, you're going to tutor answers, right?
Yeah.
And tutoring an answer is very different than tutoring your win condition out repeatedly, right?
Yeah,
very true.
So, but yeah, like it's I do think that tutors, like especially like fetch lands, are essentially a tutor and stuff, right? And there are like cheaper versions of that. Like I really like the I can't even think of the name of them, like the broker's hideout stuff where it enters, automatically sacks itself. And like I really like those ones. Yeah, like New Capenna had a bunch. Like there's like your traditional like terramorphic evolving wilds kind of thing. You don't need to always have fetch lands in. Like being a mana ahead, it's no different than like an arcane signet versus just like one of the diamonds that I like, right? I guess signet gives you instant mana and the color, it's better, but still, you're a turn behind on mana. It's oftentimes not really game breaking to be like one turn behind on that explosive play you were going to get.
Yeah.
So, one more thing we want to mention about this topic, Eric, as well. A lot of people will also argue saying that, like, hey, you know what? Just because your deck is expensive doesn't mean it's good. That is a stupid argument.
I gotta disagree with that because I have a lot of decks that are expensive. And they're not like again, my Kenrith is one of my more expensive decks, right? But it's all group hug. But it does have like all the duels and everything, right? Like it's I wouldn't say it's an accessible deck for everyone, but it doesn't win, right? So just because something is expensive, like doesn't mean like again, your whole play style is a good point of it, that like budget doesn't win a game. It makes it easier for sure. Like if you have like those higher things, but I think that like another key point of like playing on budget is just that it is going to make you a better player, right? You're going to have to assess threats better. You're going to have to make like a great lesson. If you've learned anything from the show, it's like, number one, that I don't like to play instants and sorceries. And number two is that Sherman and Slothy both like cards that serve two purposes, right? Like every time they have a chance to have a card that does A and B instead of only A, they fill that slot with it, right? So it's like maybe a removal and a creature, right? When you're playing with those kind of budget things, you have to fill the void that's left, like with the money, with more creative cards, more answers, kind of thing, and more cards that do more. They might be a few mana extra, right? So, like I said, I think that you become a better player without the budget, right? Like, yes, expensive decks are gonna win, and I understand the point you're making, that for most people, when they're just like, oh, like, it doesn't mean it's good. They do have all the staples stuffed into it, right? Like they're like, they're not winning because of their play style, their politics, but like their deck's still like stuffed to the nines with like a Psych Rift, like a Smothering Tides. Like it's all in those ones. I do understand that argument.
It can definitely only be so bad if you're pumping in your entire life savings into it.
Yeah, right. Like it's just like
it's.
Oh, go ahead.
It still might not be like hyper efficient CEDH level, But if you're throwing in things like Psych Rift and Force of Will, Smothering Tithe, Doubling Season, it's only going to be so bad.
Well, and I always say too that like the C and CDH isn't really for competitive; it's for consistent, right?
100%, yeah.
And there's a great example. One of the hardest. I've told this story ad nauseum on this podcast at this point. One of the hardest I think I've ever been beat is when Sherman played his Scry deck. And it like that was a very budget deck. It was like the Galadriel Scry one, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. At that time it was like $80.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very cheap deck. But like you have that Scry to see what's coming up, that land into play. That was rough because again, like power isn't in budget. A lot of time it's in consistency, right? And a lot of the higher budget cards, like I mentioned earlier with Doubling Season, are just us doubling down on an effect that we want, right? Our commander makes tokens. It's natural to be like, I've got to have Mondrak. I got to have Anointed Procession and stuff. It's tokens is more tokens, right? But I just like seeing creative things with tokens.
Yeah.
You know? You had another point here about like if you look at Architect, a lot of the decks range from 250 to 600, which is like a big difference and stuff. If you're constantly on the higher budget, like the higher end of that frame and stuff, though, maybe just try building a little bit lower and see like what you think, because $600, like end of the day, like we're all Magic players, we're all animals. I've said this many times. We all love the new shiny things. We all love that stuff, but like it kind of is a little weird. I'll say that we have like these like pieces of cardboard that are like $1,000 stack of cardboard. It's a lot. It's you know, when you actually break it down like as an adult and you like look at your like collection and you're like, okay, well, I got to play this like twice a month and it's like $1,300. Like maybe chill a bit.
Yeah.
And again, there's no wrong way to play Magic or right way, like except Psych Rift, that is wrong. But like there is like no wrong way to play. And if you want to have like these expensive cards, do it. But it's just try have like a variety, you know, not every deck has to have every expensive piece. Not everything has to be like a art collection of like, here's the most expensive cards I can find. And it's this promo, this, you know, I would get
it. Basically, it comes down to this, right? Like you have two choices. You can either keep on building the way you are currently doing, which is, you know, if you want to, that's fine. But do you want to improve in the game? Okay. Do you want to be a better builder? If you do, you have to challenge yourself from time to time, right? There's many ways to become a better player. There's many ways to become a better builder. This is just one of them. Okay. We're not saying this is the end all be all best way of doing it. No, this is one of many.
This is something we've been having fun with.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Once again, if you look at all of our past episodes, we did not care about budget. We just, you know, threw this in, threw that in, did not care.
Oh.
Now we're just like, no. Hey guys, check this out. This is the budget. Okay. We try to keep it under like 150. Oh, this one's around a little bit more. It's 250. Look at the last episode with Slothies. Like, how much was that?
Like, I was like $50, $55.
Yeah. I like to try like right now I'm more proud of a cool budget deck when I can lower the budget down on something. I'm like awesome, because I've been brewing especially a lot of the jumpstart stuff, right? And those commanders are so expensive for so long, $30 each, $40 for the commander. That really kind of eats the budget of the deck up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just every time I see a cool deck that's like built, it's always more creative and stuff, right? Like I see just a lot of like really, really fun. They're not bad decks, but they're just, again, they're just cheap decks. They're nice and cheap. And that's what I've been bringing out to like conventions and stuff, right? A lot of times I bring out maybe one or two kind of cooler decks, maybe one of my favorite decks at the time. And then I just usually bring like cheap nonsense that I think will make people laugh or like seems kind of fun to play. Like my Lumra deck that I played was, I think, like $60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, one of my favorite parts about building on a budget too is you get all those like funny interactions that you've got to do a little searching for, so not everybody's going to know. And people are interested in that, whereas opposed to if you're throwing down some of these big staples, you're like, oh yeah, all right.
Yeah, like once again, looking at the last episode, like when we were going through that deck tech that you had, Slothy, most of those cards I don't see, right? And that's a huge thing. Like when you build on a budget, you tend to learn to find new cards to play with. Okay, they're not the best. They might not be the best in slot, but you know what? They're multi-purpose. They're fun. They do what they're supposed to do. And you know what? Sometimes if your card is not the strongest card on the field, people tend to leave you alone.
Well, like you said with looking at it and stuff, right? I build decks. I'm looking for a theme. Like let's say that I'm building mono white Rego life gain, right? So I'm looking for now like white creatures with power 1 or 2 or 0 or 1. Now I'm looking through. I'm like, okay, we got some cool like little 0/1 like mem knights. We've got these like you know, so I'm looking through, but you're seeing a lot of like different cards you don't really see. You're playing a lot of the cards that like instead of the Soul Sisters, you're including stuff that's like whenever you have a creature enter, whenever you get a token, right? Like you're just seeing more. There's no way to scroll Gatherer and look for a theme and not see just a bunch of cards you don't see all the time, right? Like when you pop Gatherer up and you type like something like artifact, like not artifact, what's the word? Construct token. You're going to see a ton of stuff that is construct types and tokens. We didn't even know there was this many of them, right? So you just keep seeing more and more stuff. Seeing more and more stuff does also make you a good player. You see older stuff, and you do start to see like substitutes, like where you can. There's a lot of cards that are just way cheaper because they're a mana more expensive, and like and Sherman said, like you're not the threat all the time if you're not being the explosive player, and it doesn't mean you can't be explosive on a budget. But you kind of just have to, you kind of just have to politics a little more. Like that's the point I wanted to make was, I think there's lots of ways to become better, but I think that you have to talk to the table with a budget deck. You have to bargain with people. Yeah, and that's what I always. Some people don't like the bargaining aspect of EDH. They don't like the deals. That's why I play EDH. To me, that's the fun. I want to talk to my buddies. I like to sit down and have like a good visit with my friends. And it's kind of harder to like justify that like politicsing when like I'm like, okay, Slothy, you don't attack me for 1 turn and I'll remove this. And you're like, you have 1,800 tokens. I'm going to kill you if I can kill you. Like you're getting Rakdos Charmed the moment I untap. You know, like it's really hard to be like the dominant position. Like you've just you've exiled everyone's board, like you winds have changed, and then Teferi's protections for some reason, just to show that you have it. And then you're just like, okay, but like Sherman, you leave me alone for 1 turn now. And you're like, you have 100 power on board.
I am not going to be leaving you alone.
Yeah. You're the I'm holding this grudge for the rest of the night the way you're playing. Right? Like it's I like to go out and I like to play it on a budget as well. Like it again, number one, it makes me talk to my friends, which is what I like to do. I like to joke around. I like to laugh. It's so fun to sit there and be like, come on, land, and then still miss my land, or like, you know, or just to find, like, again, in my junk decks, the answer I was looking for, just like something interesting. In Rego, it's always Triumph of the Hordes. In every Rego deck I think I've built, it has Triumph of the Hordes. I think it's like the most expensive in pretty much every version of Rego that I have. Even my mono white one will probably have a Triumph of the Hordes. You gotta sometimes swing on them with Infect, you know? But like I sit there, I'm like praying for that card. I'm like, come on. So there's like fun ways to like play on a budget, but it does, like, for me, the reason I've done it more and more and more is being the Nicobolus of the table isn't always fun. It's not fun to play against everyone all the time, to like have to 3-on-1 because you have, like, again, I have just this huge card pool. If I want to like play a silly deck, I'll play a silly deck. But anyone who's like seen some games, you see people just sometimes target me, no matter the state I'm in, because they know how I can build, not what's in the deck. They just know what could be in the deck. And so sometimes I die.
Yeah, I definitely find that, at least personally, my wheelhouse is being either the second or the third biggest problem at the table.
Yeah.
Because then people aren't really looking at you, and building on a budget kind of helps with that, because you're kind of able to reel things back a little. So people are going to see your whatever, like Tanker Bloom's the only card that's coming to mind right now, and kind of like leave you alone, as opposed to the person who's got an engine for removing all the artifacts and enchantments, or proliferating basically on command. So kind of lower budget and power kind of slightly pull you into a more advantageous position at certain game states, I believe.
Well, then people are looking to make a deal with you, right? Not looking to make a deal to take you down.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can just kind of do your thing in the corner.
Everybody
build up
wants
your
to
board
take Daniel
quietly.
down. I build my board up loudly and threaten everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, truth be told, like with my experience with this, like here, like early on when I was playing Magic and getting into EDH, this is one of the things I would hear from people from time to time on the side, not in the group, but just like pulled aside and like, hey, look, okay, so and so is getting a little bit upset because we keep on picking on them. Can we all ease up a little bit? And early on, I used to be like, okay, you know what? Sure, I'll do it. That's fine. Eventually, I stopped caring because they were building decks for like $1,200, $1,500, and they're throwing out bangers every single time. And it's like, we have to answer this stuff, or else they're just going to go infinite and win. And like, they're getting upset that we're picking on them because of this. And like, you know what? I officially do not care anymore. I will pick on you every single time because you literally are the threat. What's the point of playing a game if you're not gonna threat assess properly?
Yeah.
So if Slothy like has Mom out, okay, along with Delmy and like Panharmonicon and all this stuff, and I'm gonna be like, hey, Dan, I'm gonna attack you, with this unblockable and kill you. Dan's gonna be upset because he's not the threat. Slothy is. But if Slothy's the one that I attack, and he's like, oh, like you guys always pick on me and everything, this is stupid. Well,
there's like, reasons for that.
Fair?
Yeah,
there's reasons for that, right? And I know a lot of people have probably gone through something similar with this. Like I have as well. Okay, I would get picked on from time to time because of literally the same thing. Okay, and I don't tell people to stop. I just reevaluate and be like, okay, why are people doing this to me? Why am I being sought out? Why am I the arch enemy? Why am I being picked out? And it's something that you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be truthful. You have to be honest and like, okay, look, I'm the one that keeps on throwing out all these like cards that are outperforming every single time. I am the threat. So when you start building on a budget and lowering the cards where it's like they're not overpowered, they're doing their job, or you need like 2 or 3 cards in order to run your engine, people tend to look the other way because you're not really the threat. The other person are, and in a weird way, you're actually lowering the arms race amongst their play group when you start doing this.
Yeah, it starts with our own building, right? I wanted to make a point about like what you're talking about too, really quickly. We talk lots of time. Everyone hears the term threat assessment thrown out all the time, like threat assessment this, threat assessment that. But threat assessment isn't only what's on the board. It's not only what's visible and stuff. It is you have to understand that, like, especially when you have like a specific play group, sometimes you play different people at the same LGS, but there's you have a specific play group and stuff. I like shenanigans. And if you play games with me, you know that I fill my deck with stupid stuff. And there's a lot of times where I can be dead last and the game is just now done. You can't come back from it because I've done that. I get killed all the time because of how I build and how I am and stuff, right? Like I like to durdle. It sometimes drags games on because I like to see if people can ever come back from it. But if you play against me and stuff like that, right? You know, you play a bunch of games with me, you'll see that I have like a very, very consistent way of overwhelming the board. I like to fill the board with whatever my theme may be. Group hug, even, I don't care. We're drawing 13 cards now. And maybe you don't want to draw 13 cards a turn. Maybe that's detrimental to you. Maybe just the way that your brain processes stuff. You don't like to look at 13 new options and it overwhelms you. Sometimes I gotta die when I'm doing that, you know?
Yeah.
It's like threat assessment isn't just what's on the board and what's out and stuff. Like sometimes, you know, like again, I play Rigo so much, right? Board wiping me with Rigo when I have a deck that draws a bunch of cards every turn. Every Rigo deck is just a draw deck. And board wiping me, like you've killed my 0/1s, I'm going to dump out a whole new handful of 0/1s. You see me holding 18 cards and stuff, right? You don't just like be like, well, like he's fine now. I'm going to do the same thing. You're not stopping me. You have to kill me. You have to strike me in the heart.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that a good way to threat assess and to practice getting better at understanding that is go play a card game like Phase 10 with your family. Like it's super casual. You'll kind of pick up on what people are drawing off of the discard pile and be able to kind of work through that, and eventually you'll start to pick up on little cues that you wouldn't have been able to find before.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that I find really helps with the threat assessment, because if you're just grinding out Magic games, you're gonna get there, but I find variety kind of shows you different things.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Phase 10 and stuff, I like playing games like that, but I also like playing my favorite thing. One of my absolute favorite things in all, this isn't really Magic related, but it's funny. I like to play Uno, and I like to change the rules of Uno the entire time I play with my wife. And every time I'm just like, it doesn't work like that. And she loses her mind. She's like, that's not the rules. And I'm like, it is the rules. Draw 10. And she's like, I'm not drawing 10. I love nothing more than riling my wife up with Uno. And every time, like, I'll just be like, oh yeah, you want to play Uno about it? And she'll be like, you don't know how to play the rules. She gets very upset. It's like my favorite thing. And as soon as you said Phase 10, I was like, I should play Uno with Kayla later today.
A draw 4 out of draw 4 is not technically a draw 8. Shut up. Yes, it is.
That's exactly. It's I love all those memes, and it's just like, thanks for the game, but we've got it from here, like when Uno's clarified the rules. But yeah, it's like you said, right? The variety of it is nice. You spend more time, like again, EDH is a game. And I think a lot of us take it really seriously because it's like a super fun game, and it's very, very easy to like look forward to it. You see your friends, there's such a huge pool, and it feels good to win a game. It does feel good to like win, and you know, like when your deck does what you want it to do, you're proud of it. You know, you're like, yeah, it's my boy. But like if you're always winning just because you're outspending your play group, like this isn't to be mean, but like Brian puts like the staples in every deck. No matter what Brian's building, like it could be like any commander. Like he could just, it doesn't even matter if it needs it. And if it has white, it's got like a smothering tithe. If it's got this, it's got that. And again, there's nothing wrong with playing like that. But I've told Brian before, I'm like, it gets a little stale to just keep seeing the same cards. Like there's nothing wrong with playing the way you like to play. I'm just letting you know that it makes it very easy to guess what you're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when like Brian, like I love Brian. We all do.
Yeah.
And like there's a few months ago, like he built his Atraxa deck. You know, like the new Atraxa, not the old one. And I'm like, Brian, like, can't, like, no offense, but like this is stupid. He's like, well, stupid good or stupid bad? I'm like, no, it's just stupid because like I'm like, Brian, I can literally rebuild your deck just from memory, just from knowing all the power cards that you're throwing in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, you can't. And I'm like, I listed off like 10 cards, and those 10 cards alone totaled close to $400.
Yep.
From 10 cards, right? And that's like the low base amount, like not even like like the nice version and everything, like literally the base of runs. And he's like, that's not the case. I'm like, look, Brian, like your deck is probably like anywhere from like 1,200 to 1,600 at this point in time, like, and you guys are still scared of like like my budget deck that's like $150. There's something wrong here. Okay, like I don't need like I don't have an Orcish Bowmaster. I don't want one.
I'm the same. I'm not. I get it. It's a strong card. I don't have any Orcish Bowmasters in decks. I'm like, I get it. It's good job, guys.
Yeah.
The same with One Ring. I don't really run it at all.
No, I don't even own one. I don't really enjoy playing that way.
Yeah, I get it. I might put like a One Ring in my Kenrith deck. I might have one in there because it gives you protection until your next turn. That's the skip your turn one.
Yeah.
But that's like because it's just so thematic. But I don't know. I just find a lot of times I don't need the staple cards like to have fun. Like I said, ever since I've started just stuffing decks with like junk, essentially junk, like cheap cards, it's really fun because no one knows what it is. People are having to pull it down and everything. And like it's really fun to Genesis Wave. Like I one of my Rigo decks, I talk Rigo a lot. Just as a spoiler, next week's episode is probably Rigo. I'm gonna just get it out of here. You guys are gonna see the glory. I'm gonna convert everyone to Rigo decks. Rigo deck for you. Rigo deck for you. We got blue Rigo decks, white Rigo decks, Bant Rigo decks, green Rigo decks, Infect Rigo decks. But yeah, it's like I just like playing silly stuff. I pulled up on the other screen here. I have when this commander came out, Perforos. Bronze Blooded. I really, really liked it as a card, and there's you can go like lots of ways. There's like big mana themes, there's all that kind of stuff. But I personally built like a Phoenix version of it, and it's such a weird deck. There's only 45 versions of a Phoenix deck even on EDH Rec, and I think 2 of them are mine. So like when you look at like stuff like that, like seeing like neat cards, because every time anyone's seen my Perforos deck, they're like, that's like a really cool idea. This is very fun. But I like seeing that variety. And like Sherman said, if you can, if there's ever a point where people can actually guess what's in my deck by memory, like short of like, I love like a Howling Mine, but yeah, but it's not like when I build a deck, I don't start with like 80 open slots, including land, because I've got to include, it's got to have an Arcane Signet. We need a Soul Ring, obviously. I really like I'm building a token deck, so we've got Doubling Season, we have Parallel Lives, we have Mondrak, we have Anointed Procession. So, you know what I mean? Like, it just, when you build from like a predetermined list of like, my deck has to do X, Y, Z, instead of like, well, what fits it? Like, what's interesting? What's new? Like a lot of my decks that I'm the most proud of personally are decks I never see anyone play. I haven't seen anyone. Actually, that's not true. I did see Brady play a Belladross, but his is very different. But like Belladross is like one of my favorite decks of all time. Perforos, I really, really like Barakos and Folk Hero. Obviously Rigo, who I never shut up about. Like, but there's like a lot of these ones. They're not very expensive. I think my Barakos deck is like $100. You know? They're just again, like I've seen so many cool interactions happen, like just playing with Sherman and stuff like that. And again, Sherman could go stuff all these cool cards into it and put a Rhystic Study in every deck and up the power, but that's not what like makes again, I think Sherman's a very good deck pilot. And I like seeing people win in clever ways instead of that. One of my favorite wins that I've ever gotten, this isn't like a budget one, but it was, I was playing Windgrace and somebody went to Pact of Negation something of mine. And I was like, okay, no problem, it resolves. and I strip mined their blue source. So they couldn't pay for it and they lost on their turn. I think that's hilarious. Like I like to see like a clever way of like doing things, and like obviously like you packed or force me and then you get strip mined. That's not your average budget interaction, but
yeah, no, definitely.
Like, the thing is, when you build more and more and more budget decks, like you both of you guys said, you tend to be a lot more creative. You look at something, you look at the problem, you're like, oh, like can I do this? Or like you limit yourself from not using a bunch of staples, and you start trying to dive into what can you do with something. So like you said, Daniel, like you had a deck where like no one else made like a Phoenix themed deck. Like one of my favorite decks, which I unfortunately have to take apart because I'm no longer allowed to play it with my play group, is my Mirko deck, because my Mirko deck is based all around blinking and flickering my creatures, right? And even with that, if you look on EDH Rec, no one has that concept. Okay, like, and you can watch gameplay of me playing with the Mirko deck, because I've played it numerous times for recording, and you'll see that that's the theme, because I want to flicker something so I can get rid of the finality counter, right?
Yeah.
So, and this deck started off as a budget as like $100, like 105 at the point in time when I first built it, and then I've slowly added to it because I just loved it quite. Like I really really enjoyed it. So I powered it up by adding 3 cards, and that's Displacer Kitten, Sakashima, and Spark Double. And then after that, that drove my budget up to like $160, $170. But I'm still under 200 though, right? But once again, like it forces you to be creative. The more and more that you build on a budget, more and more you challenge yourself. Not even just building on a budget, just finding these challenges for yourself. You become more creative because you start coming up with concepts that people don't consider. Because a lot of times people will see this like, oh, I'm going to throw in like Massacre Worm. I'm going to throw in like, whatever. Like I'm going to throw in all these really, really, really powerful things. But it's not fun because everyone else can predict it and they can counter your strategies because of that. When you come up with something that's so creative that no one else has seen or does, it throws everything out the window and they don't know what to expect. And like Daniel said, it's so much more fun. It's so much more interesting, so much more fun, because it's like a puzzle. We all love puzzles. Every single person that plays Magic, in my opinion, loves puzzles, because that's what this game is. You're given a commander, you're like told, how can I solve this puzzle because I want to win, right? So now when you play a game, you're like, okay, how do I win? Here's the puzzle. I have these cards. I don't have these overpowered ones. I have these normal ones or these cheaper ones, and I'm missing this key piece. Can I convince someone to give me that key piece in order to win?
I like you said, right? It's almost like you're just not drawing that card you win. You can always put it in later, but like lowering the arms race is fun, and the only one who can really lower the arms race is yourself, right? Because you can't change how people are going to build, but it is fun to it is fun to introduce, like I said, I like shenanigans, and one of my like favorite things to do in Magic is it's not an expensive deck. I preface this by remembering you all like me, but I really like to play my I have a Frey Elise deck, and the whole point of Frey Elise deck is I'm gonna destroy artifacts, and it's like turn target permanent becomes an artifact, target creature becomes an artifact, and everything's that. But like I really like to splinter things, and everyone who's not getting splintered thinks it's really funny when I splinter all of the basic lands out of someone's deck, and it's hilarious. But like it's not an expensive combo, and it's so funny to hit people with. But like I like seeing, even if it's annoying, I still like to see clever annoying things.
Yeah. Well, like one of my favorite decks that I've got is my Marnius Calgar. And that one's $140. And like a game that we played at the Calgary event, I drew 43 cards off of Dan.
Yeah, that was a cool card.
With a single
That was stupid. That was so stupid.
30-cent 2-mana card.
I really like that deck. Yeah, it's interesting. It's again, it's a very interesting version of it.
Mm-hmm. Like there's definitely a lot of workarounds while still maintaining your savings.
I was looking through here, and a bunch of decks that I like to play. I was like looking at my Perforos, looking at my Rigo and stuff. They're like rank 900 commanders. They're not even close. So I started looking at like some of like the least played commanders, and I'm gonna build a few on this list. Like just like extreme
100%.
budget, like 50-cent commanders. I like this. Sherman, what do you think of this idea of like extreme budget like rank 3,000 commanders?
We can do it. I'm fine with, like, you throw any challenge in front of me and I will look at it and like, let's try it out, right? Because that's just the way I am. Like, you cannot improve as a player or as a person without challenging yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's a thing. Like, we can play with staples all day long, but it does get boring. And if you look at the gameplay that we have when we're playing together and we're playing stupid stuff, we're laughing, we're having fun, we're having a ball. Like, we all have board states, that go nuts, and like the game swings very, very, very dramatically from time to time, right? And it's very, very, very fun when you do that. Like, once again, what's more fun? You just dominating everyone every single turn, or sorry, every single game, and you winning, fine, whatever. Okay, some people enjoy that. Or you literally pull the win away just by like the smallest of margins. Okay, you just scrape by because you found that one key piece, or like, that one combination, or you made that deal and you just squeaked by and got that win. What's more satisfying? Okay, I don't know about you, but for me, the second one is more satisfying every single time.
I haven't.
Okay, when you squeak out that win, not from like an infinite combo, not from like you having like your deck being like 800 more than every other person, not from any of that. It's just the fact that you built something, you talked to the table, you just squeaked it out somehow because you went under the radar, or like you were the threat the whole time, but at the same time, like you're just able to manage to convince everyone that like you're not the threat, and then you win. That is so much fun, so satisfying every single time. I don't know about how you guys feel about that. So, but anyways,
I was gonna say I haven't finished editing the videos up, but there was one game I was a runaway train in this game. I was playing Kona, and I had like this huge field, and it was either Sherman or Slothy, but I went to try swing out at one of them, and they got rid of the field, like a return all attackers or settle the wreckage or something like that, and I lost. And I like seeing a loss that comes from behind. Like I like an underdog story, you know?
Well, that kind of what Sherman was saying reminds me of another game that I have talked about before. I was playing the Doctors, and Sherman was convincing everybody that I was the threat because, I was. But being able to kind of convince the others that Sherman was the threat, and then that each other was the threat, was probably my favorite game that I've played in a long time. Like, just all the table interaction, all the politics, being able to kind of squeak it out at the very end. was awesome. And that'd be way more fun than if I just, oh yeah, here's a $50 combo piece. Here's another $50 combo piece. Game's over.
Yeah. Well, let's.
Like, we're not playing solitaire here. We're being social.
Yeah, I want to play with my friends. I want to get invited to the games still. I was gonna say let's end with like some of the cons. Like we've talked about why it's fun to play, what's good. Like let's end up with like some cons of like playing budget and stuff. I think some of them are a little obvious, but just so people know and stuff. I'll start us off. Your deck's gonna be a little slower. You're not gonna get out and rolling the same as if you're mana crypting, which is legal. Wink, wink. You know what I mean? Like everyone's seen like a turn one like insane play of like oh, I got a Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, then a Llanowar Elf, like just like a crazy play, and you're like, wow, that's how do I come back from that? Right?
Yeah,
you're not going to have those while you're trying to plan a budget. Very rarely, if you do.
And kind of one thing that I've been doing, and I'm trying to make more of a point of this year, where I am aiming to build more of the hyper budget. I'm trying not to play Soul Ring. I don't want those hyper fast games all the time. I want the diamonds. Arcane Signet's still all right, but the diamonds, all the Commander Sphere, the 3 mana rocks. Because getting out the Soul Ring Signet, whatever, it's awesome. It feels great when it happens.
Yeah.
But at the same time, slowing things down, it's also going to make you less of a immediate beacon.
Yeah.
If you're putting out your Soul Rings, your totally legal mana crypt.
Yeah, exactly.
All that.
It's kind of funny because like a lot of people that we talk to and whatnot, they're like, oh man, like I wish the game would slow down. I wish, like we could take our time, like, instead of like having someone win on like turn 5, turn 6, we have like people winning on like, like we used to, like turn 10, turn 12. It's like, you know what? You have to understand, if you're the one that's throwing in these fast mana, rocks and everything and acceleration and all that stuff, you're part of the problem because you want this, but you're not willing to make the change.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not willing to make the change, then it's never going to happen. So like you can talk to your group, but like you have to make the change as well.
Yeah, the change starts with you.
Yeah.
I like, so again, I want to play Magic with my friends. I don't want to play Card Shuffle the Gathering.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool, you won.
We're not pitch bowling here.
Yeah. Oh, turn 2, you won again.
Like it's like the decks can be slower, okay? And that's not a big deal if you're a little bit slower, okay? If you're a 1 or 2 turns slower, fine, okay? But like it is what it is, right? You're sacrificing. You have to make sacrifices when you do something, right? So if you're playing budget, yes, your deck's going to be a little bit slower because you're not going to have these like faster mana rocks and whatnot. At the same time, and then our con is just the fact that your deck will probably be or need more setup in order for it to have its engine working. So because you don't have the one card that will do like every like 5 or 6 different things for you. No, you're gonna have to have like maybe 3 cards that will do those 5, 6 things for you once they're all on the board or at the same time, right? So it's a little bit trickier, but once again, it's gonna force you to be a little bit more creative into figuring out how to get to those cards, how to protect them, stuff like that, right? So like, if you tutor, fine. Tutor, you bring those cards out, great. If you don't tutor, then throw in more card draw. Okay, we have all of them out. How do we protect them? All right, so we're not going to play with Teferi's Protection or Heroic Intervention. All right, sure, maybe like Semester's End,
Yeah.
Semester's End phases things out, and it's still like 35 cents.
Yeah, exactly.
It costs 4 mana, and it's 35 cents compared to Teferi's Protection that's like 3 mana, and it costs like, what, $50?
Yeah, it's something crazy. But
Yeah. So it's a bit of a a con because like you do need more cards to get set up and everything, but at the same time that's kind of an advantage for building on a budget because people will look at your deck and be like, okay, you know what? You're not really doing much. I'm just gonna leave you alone, or like like you don't have that one card that's accelerating you way beyond everyone else. You're
Mm-hmm.
not really much of a threat compared to this other person. So it's kind of like a con, kind of a not at the same time. But overall, it is a con.
mm-hmm.
A really funny thing that Connor does is he, like my brother, he has an Aloro deck, and it's a mono blue counter spells deck. That's all that's in it is like counter spells and like Docent of Perfection, like patron wizards things. And a lot of the time, it just looks like he's like mana flooded with blue. If you don't know that's what he's doing, so just like play a blue mana pass, play a blue mana pass. He's got like 4 or 5 blue mana, and you think that he doesn't have his colors. And it's all he's setting up is just that, and it's a cheap deck. Like it doesn't have very expensive stuff. I think it's probably a $70 deck, but it's so annoying. I hate that deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that I think that playing budget, like the best thing, like the greatest benefit is that you have to talk to your group. You have to play with your friends instead of just like instead of just kind of like being like, oh, here, look at how great my deck is, right? Like you're showing up to a game night rather than like trying to put on an expedition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I have a lot of decks that just end up always playing that out. My Muldrotha is like a great version of that. It's like one of my more powerful decks, and it's like such a giant regeneration from the grave kind of thing. It plays that way, but those aren't really the most times when people are like, I had a great time playing with Daniel. It's not like I enjoyed watching him have all his cards on the field with a lionized diamond loop.
Yeah.
Oftentimes people like to see like my silly decks. They like to make fun deals with me. I think they like to be threatened into not killing my things, but maybe they don't.
I think it's more like playing against you, Daniel. Like a few years ago compared to now, it's definitely more fun.
Oh, I think I build a lot more creative decks. A lot of my old decks are very powerful, but they're like very well. I haven't really changed much stuff, but for the time, they were like very like min maxed of like there's like no wasted slots. Like this is the best thing that I could do it. Let's like cut the lands down to like razor thin. This is like again the best in slot ramp cards, the best that like a lot of it was like even before the 3 visits reprint, it was like stuff like a 3 visits as opposed to like a cultivate to like cut down the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I'm more fun to play with now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely 100%. Agree.
So, and like, in all honesty, try it out. Talk to your group. Try it out. And once again, don't just do it like once or twice and be like, haha, look, I can do it. You guys all suck because I'm better than you because I can do this. No, you got to do it again and again and again. You got to be consistent with it. We're not saying that you can't have expensive like decks and whatnot. No, like we all build budget decks, but we all also have like higher price decks. Okay, it's just the name of the game, because sometimes we want to do something, and it's going to be higher price because of that. So, but like you can't get better at something unless you constantly do the thing that challenges you again and again and again, right? And that's what makes the difference.
I think one of the things, like, just challenge yourself to build a deck that's $100 or less. Yeah. Even if that's hard, $100 without the commander, let's say.
Yeah, $100, no commander, no basic lands.
Yeah, there you go. And you know what? For a lot of the listeners that are in the US, keep in mind when we say this stuff, we're Canadian. So when we're building a budget deck that's like $150 or $100, or or we're mentioning this stuff, imagine what it is converted to US dollars.
It is $69.06.
Yeah. Our dollar compared to the US isn't that great right now. But like
Yeah.
that's the thing, okay? If we're saying like, like once again, like Galadriel, or what? No, Slothy's deck from last week. Okay, that was like $60 Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like,
I think that was US because Architect is.
Yeah, it was
US,
54
right?
US.
Yeah,
so I think that's like 78 Canadian or something.
Oh, it's
78 syrup dollars.
I take it all back.
Yeah, 78 syrup dollars and 19 pennies.
19 acorns.
19 beavers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, it's but like I said, just challenge yourself a little bit to play with like a budget. Like it's fun. I really like I still like the idea a lot of firing up again. This is just me talking, but I really like the idea of like playing an anti league. Like I really want to play anti games with my buddies. And you don't put dual lands in anti decks. I'll tell you that right now. Like, so I love, like, I would love to do just like a full maximum like $150 deck, like just like random anti kind of games where it doesn't matter if you lose things. You sign the card, so I know that like I won this from Sherman, and now my Llanowar Elf has my Junk Divers has a Sherman signature on it. Like I like that kind of stuff because it's something different, something fun. But again, you're still trying to win, but you're not putting in a doubling season and all those things like $60 cards, $70 cards in anti piles. And if you are, I also want to play anti with you. So let's go.
I certainly will not be matching that, but
you're all about to see the power of an $85 Rego deck on steroids. Oh, go ahead, take my Memnite. Man, I love Rego.
Seriously though, challenge yourself. Like even if you don't build on a budget, fine. Find a different way to challenge yourself. And just keep on giving those challenges to yourself and keep on improving because of that. Because like, there's many ways to improve. This is just one of them, and we're starting with this one just because like it is really, really, really fun. You see us once again, like in all of our gameplays and everything, and every time we mention like the deck tech, we're having a blast compared to, talking about the same staples that are like, $50, $60, $70. It's boring when it's like it gets boring, it gets stale. Doing this for so long, like how many episodes have we done so far?
Oh, 200 something.
Like yeah, quite a bit, right? So you get bored. So you want to be creative, and like doing stuff like this is a great fun challenge, and we really do suggest people give this a shot.
I've enjoyed playing the game more since it's been on a budget. I still crack out like a higher power one here and there, especially like at conventions if people want to play something a little more intense. But like I really like when I'm making a deck right now, I like to just include like a budget version if it's one of my expensive ones. Be like, this is what I would do with a budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of another good point. If you've got a really expensive, say, like Atraxa, a really expensive Atraxa deck, take that and then make another list that's budget, because you already kind of know what you're going for, and you can kind of start by just picking out, what's a budget proliferate card that I could put in instead of the Inexorable Tides. I'm not sure how much that is. I don't actually think that's that much, but that kind of thing where you can just kind of swap things out for the cheaper versions, and then that could kind of get your foot in the door for looking for new decks to build and immediately put them on a budget.
Yeah.
that's a really great idea, because like if that's a great way to start. Like build out your deck, and you know what? Excluding the commander, look at like the top 10 cards, most expensive cards of the deck. Remove those top 10 cards and replace them with something else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and see what happens, right? And they cannot exceed the next highest price card that you have in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, excluding the commander. That is a really great thing to try and do and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really great point.
Yeah, I want to see people's best budget lists. Send me them. I want to see what you guys are building.
Yeah, love seeing some funky things.
I like creative decks. I would love to do an episode where we just like talk about like the decks people are like the most proud of. Like, you know, send me your list. Let me see what you guys think, or like what you guys are building that's like your favorite. But for me, like I said, I talk nonstop about Rigo because I think it's just so funny to build Rigo at the moment. It's such a cool card.
Well, like in our chat in Discord, you know, we had like Hans Eriksson. He was just saying was it today or yesterday, that like he was playing a Shrewfist, and he's like saying how much fun it was just to draw 22 cards of Shamanic Revelations.
Yeah.
Right. So, and doing stupid things. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's it,
like
and everything.
Throw in the decks, you know, and tell us like, yeah, like, you know, here it is. This is one that I really love, and yeah, you know, we can probably like talk about it and everything and go from there.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I say we wrap there and stuff. I hope that people give it a try and everything. With that, I hit my button. Thank you guys for getting through another one of these unhinged rants about playing budget decks and everything like that. If you want to buy cards, like I said, House of Cards is a great spot for it. Buy more expensive ones, as I mentioned before. That really makes me happy. You get a discount, so there you go. But yeah, in any list, like big or small, they can deal with House of Cards. Promo code IT99. If you want to support us, like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot. We do this, and the more people it reaches, the more we can do and more effort we can put into it. So thank you. If you want to go above and beyond that, come to Patreon. Come chat with us. Come make decks. Come see the glory of 80 Rigo decks, and I'll show you the light. Rigo's a cool commander. Other than that, yeah, it's just AI armor for sleeves. They're a wonderful place, and I want to know what's your budget. What's your budget tip? Like, how do you make something affordable? Do you build slowly at first and then build up to an expensive card, save up? Do you have just a huge collection like me? What do you do when you're building and stuff? Where does it come from? That's it.
Yeah.
Lower the arms race. That's all I've got to say at the end of it. Now I let it roll out. I like this song a lot, to be honest. It's nice. Nice and chill. Bye-bye.
All right, later.
See ya.